Hello, everyone. Welcome to another West Coast Pop tier list. Today is a special one we're doing for Halloween. I hope you dig it. It's going to be in two parts. So watch one day, watch one the next day, and gear up for a scary weekend with us. We got two guys here from the show. Knock, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Hopefully, you guys don't hear too much of the fireworks in the background, but it's a good day.
Yep, Dodgers won. All right, Eric, how are you doing?
Doing A-OK, hey ho, pip and dandy.
Right. And we have three special guests with us today. The first one, script supervisor Katie Baldwin. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. And we also have cinematographer Connor Quigley. How are you doing, buddy?
Hello. Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. And of course, you know him, you love him, you request him. From I Know Movies and You Don't, Mr. Kyle Bruhl is back for this one. Kyle, we love having you.
Well, I love being here, but I don't know if I'm convinced that other people do. This request line, I don't know if I believe it happens.
You don't know how many letters I get in my mail just saying replace Eric with Kyle.
No, Eric, that's ridiculous.
All right. Well, today we are going to run down some horror movies. I picked a couple classics here. We got some obscure ones, and we have some you guys know. But I wanted to refrain from Universal monster movies, and I wanted to refrain from some of the classic ones that everyone has on these tier lists, and pick some more fun ones. And I do have some on here that are fucking terrible. So we will go through this tier list one at a time, and what we will do here is we will rank them individually, and then I will put it where the best measurement of that group ranking is. So you have S class, that is your top of the line, and then it goes down A, B, C, D, and F, and you rank it wherever you want and put as many up there in S as you think deserves to be there. At the end, after we go through every single one of them, we will vote to see which one in the S class stays as the best horror movie on this list. Everybody ready?
I think
Yes,
so.
sir.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. We're going to kick it off with this one right here, the 1973 The Exorcist. Kyle, you
Starting
love this
strong.
movie.
Well, I do, but only because it pretty much crippled me in fear when I was a child. I had a moment of boldness to walk into the living room when I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old, when my parents were watching William Friedkin's wonderful The Exorcist, based off William Peter Blatty's novel, and the screenplay he wrote. And it was during the scene where she like walks down the stairs backwards, and I don't think I had a good night of sleep for 2 weeks. I was petrified out of my mind, and it's because The Exorcist is filmed in almost docu-realism fashion, and because it, even though it deals with supernatural and demonic horror, it's the way the sound design is done. I think actually, even as an adult, the scariest scene for me is when she's taken in to do tests at the hospital. It just the pervasiveness of the testing, the sounds, the needles going into her arm. It is a horrifying movie, just like putting yourself in the experience of somebody who doesn't believe or is a non-believer, and then this is all kind of happening, and then you juxtapose that with a priest who is wrestling with the ideas of his faith and wrestling with the tenets of his faith, and has to perform this ritual, this ancient sort of ritual. It is a phenomenal film. It will scare you to your core. I think it's I think it is the scariest movie in existence. I think I would bat for it. For me, it would be S class if my droning on about it, but it would be S class to get to the point.
No problem. I have a similar story with another movie on this list, so that's kind of cool.
Fantastic.
Eric, have you seen this one?
I haven't seen it, but like most of these movies on here, I looked them over on YouTube. But this one, I am going to say S class because not as in depth as Kyle gave, but the fact that this movie is still referenced in so many ways, just like the scene with the exorcism, tied to the bed, all that.
Mhm.
It's a classic, so I am going to give it the S rank.
Beautiful. Katie, what about you?
So this movie, I actually, and this is going to be a common theme you're going to hear from me. I watched this for the first time on TV, which was a wild experience because there's so many things in the movie now that I've seen it uncut that are taken out. And so for me, the first time watching this movie, it was not terribly scary because it was very confusing to watch. The scene where, you can hear her screaming upstairs and her mom runs into the room. And in the cut that I saw, her mom just screams and there's like blood on the walls, but you can't see what it says. And then she like runs out screaming, and then that's the end of the scene. And it wasn't until I was an adult and I watched it and I realized she was like defiling herself with a cross, which is horrifying. I mean, it's just, I was like, oh, that makes more sense, I guess. But yeah, this movie as an adult, I feel like watching it, it was a much scarier experience watching the whole movie in that ambiance. And yeah, I mean, obviously S class for me. This one's incredible.
Beautiful. I wonder if Hustlers on Hollywood over there sells themed versions.
Oh,
of
no.
Oh, God.
All right. Anyways, let's move on. Knock, have you seen this one?
Yeah, this was, I was going to say what Katie said. Like, there's stuff you should not be doing with a cross. I seen this when I was a kid on TV for the first time. I thought it was pretty scary. Then I seen the uncut version recently, and like, that's a whole nother level, man, that I did not
Yeah.
need to see. It's S class for sure, but I was deeply disturbed.
And this man right here, Connor, you have been, this is a theme we'll get on the show today. You have been binge watching a lot of franchises in horror. You
I
did do
have.
this franchise. Let's get your thoughts on this movie, where you want to rank it, and then just a brief explanation on the franchise as a whole.
Well, I haven't actually bought to the Exorcist franchise to
Oh.
burst your bubble, so I've only seen the first one
You're out.
and then bits of the third one. I'm sorry, bits of the third one when I was maybe 13.
Okay.
But I have seen this first one numerous times, and I do rank it along with the other S's in this group. I forget honestly when the first time I watched it was, but I didn't watch the full movie for some reason. I was very naive and stupid when I was younger, and I'm still very naive and stupid now. But I put it on when there was like only 30 minutes left, so I only saw the exorcism scene. So for years, I would not watch it just because I did not want to see what led up to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I finally strapped my boots on and my big boy pants on, and I watched it. And I watch it like once a year around this time. It's just, it's a classic. Yeah, like
It
what
is.
everybody else did.
Well, you have no need to watch any of the other ones, really.
Yeah,
This is a
that's
franchise you can
Pack it
skip.
up.
No, that's what I heard. Yes.
All right, well, it's sitting pretty up there. That's a whole lot of S's. All right, next up, The Conjuring. Knock, you like this one. What are your thoughts on this?
I liked it a lot. This is came at a time when I was watching a lot of horror movies, and they just weren't doing it for me. And this one brought it back to, I thought, its roots. Definitely didn't need a whole film series out of this, but the first one was really good to me. I might put it in A class.
Okay. Katie, you like this one?
I do like this one. I really like the imagery in this film. I was really impressed. I mean, we're looking at the poster here, and I really like the hanging tree and just the haunted house kind of vibe. I like that in a film. The ending for me was, I don't know, it was a little sappy, and they kind of lost me there at the end. And so I agree. I would also put this A class.
Nice. Connor, what about you?
Sadly, to be honest, I would probably rank this or C or a D, mainly because, hear me out. First time I watched this movie was in like 2014, 2015, only a year or two after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at like 4 p.m. after high school, and I watched it with a group of friends, and all we did throughout the whole movie was just laugh and make fun of it throughout the whole time. So I don't know if my opinion would stand today if I rewatched it, but I'm gonna stick with a strong C.
Strong
this one.
C. All right. Kyle, what about you?
Well, as modern day like studio horror goes, if I'm to judge this based solely on the merits of this film and not blame it for the dredge of crap that came after it in this
We'll
universe,
rip on that later. We'll rip on that.
we'll live on this later. I will judge this movie based on its own self. I do, in ranking, I would put it as a solid B. I think it is a tightly woven film. It's, as Katie said, the imagery is quite good. James Wan is a decent filmmaker when he wants to be, at his best
Listen,
circumstances.
man, he directed Fast and Furious. He's a goat.
Hey, well, I don't want to disparage any more on the show, any Fast and Furious. So James Wan's a great filmmaker because of Fast and Furious. But, he has a way with horror. He has a history with horror. And This movie is very competently done, very well acted. I think the portrayal of Lorraine and Warren and Roger. No, not Roger. Ed, Roger's Rod Livingston's character. Ed, the paranormal investigators. Like they are quite intriguing. They are quite well acted. And they have a camaraderie that takes you through this journey. And you need people like that to ground you in the reality of what's going on, especially when it's sort of supernatural. So I do like this movie, but it's a solid B.
All right, and let's go to a solid A. Eric, what are your thoughts on
Aw.
it?
I'm also gonna give it a B. Looking up these films, the one thing that did strike out to me was the acting. Usually, I kind of find horror film acting kind of cheesy at some points,
Yeah.
but I dug it in this one, and I'm gonna take some points off, and I can do this for every horror movie because I fucking hate jump scares, and this one had it, so I'll go with B. I can live with a B.
Yeah, I think that is where I'll put it. I just want to let you guys know there are some things on this list that I might deem too scary to talk about and just move on. So,
Okay.
Understood.
some things on this list, but we'll
Scooby
get to
Doo
them,
on
we'll
this
get to
list?
them.
Too scared.
All right, next up we have the new Halloween from 2018. Eric, did you see this one?
I didn't, but I'm gonna skip this one because I didn't see it. But for some reason, I remember thinking in my head, this has to be the best horror movie ever. Because I don't remember if it was Robot Chicken that ruined my idea of it, but they made it seem like it was like a reverse Home Alone where she's hunting. What's the dude's name? Michael? Is that
Yeah,
who it is?
Michael Myers.
Yeah, thank you. So if I would give it an S just for the fact that for some reason in my head I see her hunting him down and he's scared shitless. But I didn't see it, so I'm gonna skip it.
Okay, Knock, what about you?
I don't know. I prefer the older ones. This one was okay, but it did have a cool remix song too. I thought it was interesting, but I like the older ones.
Okay,
I'll give it a high C.
I see. Delicious drink. All right, Katie, what about you?
So I watched this movie when it came out in theaters with my 16-year-old niece. She wanted to go see a movie for her birthday, and I asked if I was allowed to take her to a Halloween movie, and I was. So we went and saw it, and we were sitting waiting for the movie to start, and I asked her if she liked the Halloween movies, and she told me she'd never seen any of them. And so I was like, well, this is not the movie to start with. And so then before the trailers ran, I had to sit there and explain to her basically the historicity of, Halloween and Michael Myers. And that was a delightful experience. I realized I was having a lot of fun, like just talking about Halloween with her. And then the movie was, in my opinion, a delightful homage to the first two. It's not an excellent movie. It's not one I recommend to people, but I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I enjoyed watching it the way I did. So I'm gonna give it a B.
All right, Mr. Quigley, Connor, what about you?
I agree with that. I give it a B as well. Halloween is probably my favorite Halloween scary movie franchise, I will say. The reason I wasn't so keen on this one is in the originals, Michael Myers wouldn't just kill anybody in his way to get to where he's going. I do get the whole reporter at the beginning who visits him in the prison. He obviously knows who they are and what they're trying to do, so that's why he kills them. But it just seems some of the kills in this one were a little forced, and I gave it a B because I am excited for Halloween Kills and then Halloween Ends, or whatever the third one is going to be called. I'm interested to see what Mr. McBride and that other fellow are going to do with the trilogy. So I'll give it a B.
David Gordon Green.
Thank you, David Gordon Green. I just watched Pineapple Express today too, so I should know.
Yeah,
that one.
exactly. No, he's unwieldy in his genres.
Yes, he is.
You can keep it going, Kyle.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I like David Gordon Green, but I don't necessarily like this Halloween. It's not a bad movie though. There's a lot of points that are being made. Like, it is homage. It definitely is fanboyism guiding this. Like, clearly Danny McBride, David Gordon Green are fans of the franchise, and they wanted to make something that was spiritual, or an essence of what they recall, or how they feel about this particular the slasher genre or this particular franchise. doesn't necessarily add too much of anything. I think as Connor said, I don't think he would kill in the way that he does. It is pretty randomized and brutal. He is more of a direction and focus. That is why what makes Michael Myers so scary is that once he's an unstoppable force. I mean, literally, once he, even though stabbed and shot on the ground, like it ends up coming up and following you at the end. Like there's something about the original John Carpenter's just ominousness with this character that I don't think can be replicated even in this kind of modern age where people are fans and are trying to pay a delicate homage to it. But it is I think Jamie Lee Curtis is incredible in it. Actually, I do think there is something substantial in her character that following what trauma and paranoia will do to you, and and you have to, with that character arc, you have to erase a lot of other Halloweens in the franchise. You have to go 1, 2, and then this one, really, and then or maybe even not to. Like there's some discrepancies in the timeline, but I think Jamie Lee Curtis is as the last girl turned hunter. I do like it, and it makes sense for her character, and so there are elements about it that I really like. I think it would be, I mean, I guess a B if I'm going to be nice. It's more like a C+ for me, but I'll give it a B.
It's whatever you want it to be, Kyle.
It's your world, man.
You're gonna be a nice guy and do B, okay?
Yeah,
that's not a problem. I do believe that my biggest thing with this movie is when they showed his head and when they showed him, I don't know. I don't like going inside the mask, even though they did in the first one. I don't know. That was
yeah,
kind of really
yeah.
funny,
I agree with you.
All right, so there it is in the B. Next up, good God, that's we can't do this one. I'm sorry, this scares the shit out of me. We got to move on. Let's move on to the next one. Final Destination. This movie, 2000, spawned a huge franchise and made me never want to get behind trucks with long pieces of lumber on them. Connor, what are your thoughts on Final Destination?
I've only watched the compilation on YouTube on all the kills in this movie, so my ranking will not be very confident, I will say. But I had a lot of fun watching the 10-minute video of all these kids dying, I will say, so I'm going to give it a B. And leave it at that.
That's what you should do with everyone after this one.
Sounds good.
All right, Eric, you watch this one?
Yeah, I can't take this movie or the franchise seriously. Maybe it's all the parodies that come after it. And also I've watched the Death compilations, so I don't see it as a horror. In my mind, I see it more as a very dark comedy, so I'm gonna put it as a C.
Okay. Katie, what about you?
I agree with it not being horror. I don't think I was ever scared at any point, but it is delightful to watch the Rube Goldberg deaths of this film. It is a lot of fun. I mean, It's a fun movie. I enjoy it. I will also give it a C.
All right. Kyle, what about you?
I can't top the Rube Goldberg comment on describing the deaths. I mean, that is everyone who's describing it as more of a comedy. It is hilarious. It's one of those movies you saw as a teenager in the facade or veil of horror, but it really was just an excuse to cuddle up because it wasn't scary enough. So it's it's that kind of horror. It's kind of serviceable to a very particular demographic, a very sexualized demographic, just to get the little tension going. It serves that purpose sort of well, although at that age it didn't serve me well, just some sadness in my personal life, but it's a hilarious film. It's not really scary. In that regard, in my enjoyment, I don't know, it's kind of a B because of it's so funny to watch, but I'm gonna give it a C.
All right, Knock, what about you?
I think I'm gonna go C also. I've watched those compilations also, and I think the idea of this movie is S-Class. It's a really good idea and concept, but I don't think it drove that horror what it could have been on screen. So I'm gonna give it a C, but it's entertaining.
Yeah. Originally, death was supposed to be visible in the movie rather than just the whatever causes the accident happen. But
yeah,
right.
Yeah, it was what it was. The sequels are utter garbage, and I'm sure they'll reboot this soon. All right,
For
next
sure.
up we have the first Saw movie from 2004. Connor, do you like this one?
I like the ending of this one, I will say. I gave it an A, solely because of the ending and the whole twist with Jigsaw down on the floor there. The rest of the movie, I don't want to use the word fun because it really wasn't fun, but it was a interesting delight to watch for the first time, I will say. I only watched it about twice, and that was probably 3 years ago, and I haven't seen it since. But I have watched all the sequels, and that really did change my mindset on the Saw franchise. So I'm going to change my A to a B with this one, just because I really only remember the ending and only some of the crazy deaths that happened throughout.
Yeah, that's fair. Cal, what about you? The first Saw.
Well, the first one I think is the top of the franchise. I might be disagreeing with some people here, but I think the script is actually quite ingenious from Lee Winnell. I think it's competently, grittily directed by James Wan, and
My boy.
yeah, he is. It's Knox boy. You got to praise him. But getting into the initial mindset, this is what started off what became a entire genre of horror, the torture porn. But I don't necessarily put the first Saw in that category, even though it sparked the inspiration later on for what would be gratuitous use of what the ideas here were. I do think it is a lot. It is violent, but I think at the center of it there is a rumination on horror that is that's very classic, and I think that's why it spawned a series. That's why it's kind of continued in a life beyond the existence of the first one. But the first one to me is at the top of its class. But I wouldn't be an S. I think I'm gonna be nice and give it an A because of what it stands for.
Okay. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, I set out wanting to put it in B, and I could be wrong for saying this, because I kind of see it as like a level up from what we just talked about, the one before. Whatever. Whatever the last video was, rewind. Yes, thank you. I almost see it as like a level up from that, so I want to give it a B. But Kyle does raise a good point that it did kind of, it was that spark. I'll give it a B plus. That's a high B.
Okay. Katie, what about you?
Oh man, this is blowing my mind. I love this movie. I love this movie so much. I've watched a lot of horror, and the that like feeling where you're watching a scene and like your stomach drops because you didn't expect something, or it scares you, or it thrills you, I guess. That's the dragon I'm chasing. You know what I mean? That's what I'm always looking for. And saw like my stomach dropped, and then it like felt like that for like days afterwards. I just didn't see it coming at all. Oh, it was so good. This is S class for me for sure. Like, I love this movie.
All right.
I would just like to say, when someone uses a heroin addict reference of chasing a dragon
Yes.
for a movie, then
It's so good. I love it so much.
Then 4, 5, and 6 sobered you up.
Yeah,
Not
I
where you're
actually
gonna
haven't seen any of the other ones.
Good on you. Knock, where you rating this one?
Yeah, same. I'm gonna go S class. I mean, it has James Wan, and I do like this movie a lot. I did not see the other ones also, but this one, the ending, like Connor said, it's really good. It has to be S for me.
All right, you got 2 B's, an A, and an S. I think I'll just keep right there to keep it even. Yeah, that was a good one. Great ending. Love that ending. Next up, the terrifying Shockmaster. This is so horrible. I can't. I don't know if we can even talk about this. This is so horrifying. We'll just leave it as it is. That
can
poor
we
man.
watch this? I want to watch this movie now.
Is that a stormtrooper mask? What am I looking at?
Oh, it's too horrible to talk about. Let's move on to Waxwork from '88. Who is familiar with this movie?
I'll be the first to admit that this is not on my radar. I have not seen Waxwork.
I am shocked right now.
I have not either.
Oh my.
Yeah,
I haven't
same.
either. I
Oh,
love this
man,
poster though.
Yeah, I like the poster. I want to watch this movie.
Knock, have you seen it?
No.
Damn. All right. Waxwork, 1988. This was 80s creative mindset here. I love this movie. So these people go into a wax museum, teenagers, of course. And if they go beyond the curtain or the velvet rope or whatever's in front of the wax thing, they go into that scene. And
Oh.
then, so this is where that House of Wax garbage with Paris Hilton came from. I think that was like 2010. It was a
Well, actually,
reimagining of this,
Zach,
but Vincent. Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry, Zach. No, the House of Wax is a remake from 1953. The first, one of the first like 3D attempted projects in the 50s.
Yeah, but I think they use that though because they
Ah.
couldn't get this.
No, they're fair enough. That is.
But you are
perfectly
correct. You're
fair.
100% correct. Because I was kind of irate when it was originally called Waxwork and Paris Hilton was attached. But yeah, they go into the scene and they become members of wherever this time period is. And then, like in one scene, there's a werewolf, and the person who goes in there, not to spoil anything, but he dies by being mauled by a werewolf. And then how when they're dead, they become wax figures in that scene. It's a great movie. I highly recommend you seek it out. It's total 80s genius. I'll put it in C since no one's seen it.
I'm gonna watch it though, Zach. Like,
Please do.
You've given me a project to
us.
now watch.
It's so fun. It's so 80s. The sequel, not so much, but it's great. Not so great. Let's move on to last year's Midsommar. Who enjoyed this movie?
Not I.
I don't know
Well,
if it's supposed to be enjoyed.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy Hellraiser, but I know that's not supposed to be enjoyed.
I have complicated feelings about this movie.
I
Same.
agree with you.
Talk
on
to
that
us.
one.
Talk
Yeah.
to us, Kyle.
So I think on a cinematic level, there is something absolutely pristine about how Ari Aster constructs a film, how he makes it look, the ideas that he's trying to convey, whether he does it successfully or not. I mean, the idea of having horror out in the open and in the daylight is a concept that is rarely used. It's actually a risky move, because it's harder to be convincing. It's harder to really venture those ideas when it's out in the open, when you don't have the use of music cues or the darkness to veil the idea of a thrill or scare. I mean, the costuming is phenomenal. The setting and how it's utilized is great, but there is something at the center of Midsummer that just sort of is unfulfilling to me, or is unconnecting for me. I did a whole podcast about this on my other podcast, that's seemingly dead at the moment, but we did a long hour 30-minute discussion about what could have made this movie better, and I almost wanted to be more grounded in the relationship, even though I understand what the dynamics of it. I just wanted to care more about it before it sort of unfolded into its codependency and the apathy and uncaringness of one party and the complete codependency of another. And I like the ideas of it. It's just, it is 2.5, and then if you see the director's cut, 3 hours, it's kind of a slog, and everything brims with the same amount of tension. It needed to let it go or heighten it in a degree. Instead, it kind of flatlines. And so it's a complicated movie for me to talk about because I admire a lot about it, but I feel like Hereditary would have been a better choice because I have more positive things to say on Hereditary. I think it is a better film surveying the idea of grief and the loss of a child and what the horrors of mental illness and a bloodline is like. And so Ari Aster, I think, is ambitious, and sometimes with ambitiousness you can fall a little flat, and that's the unfortunate thing about Midsummer. I don't think it is a technical failure. I don't think it is a conceptual failure, but I think there is something missing at the heart of it to actually be a true horror experience.
Okay. Where would you rank it?
It'll be like a C.
Okay. Connor, you have issues with this one? Or did you like it?
Basically, everything Kyle has just said is exactly what I thought about this. I love the cinematography, love the art direction, the costume design. I was kind of enjoying the movie throughout when I was watching it, but then there was two main scenes that really turned me off. It was the cliff jump scene at the beginning. I thought that could have been done just a little bit better. There was one other scene, but I forgot what it was because I haven't seen this movie since it was in theaters. And then I just thought the ending was kind of too much along the same tone as what Hereditary was. And I think I was just expecting a little something different from Hereditary with Midsummer. So I'm going to rank this one as a C as well.
All right, Knock. What about you?
Yeah, loves Hereditary. Like, but the ending I didn't like, and a lot of the stuff I didn't like about the ending I didn't like about this movie. Great cinematography, great acting. The guy knows what he's doing. This movie deeply bothered me, and I did not like it one bit. But I think that was his intention. So for that, I'll give it like a B. But I will never watch this movie again.
That's the ideal movie experience. Make a movie for people to hate, and then they'll like it.
Eric, did you see this one?
I did, but I'm still gonna vote because I will give this movie props that I had every opportunity in the world to see it multiple times, and I disturbed, so I stay as far away from it as possible. But I will give it props, like Kyle said before. I found it interesting that the horror was in the daylight. That it was a bold choice. So for that, I give it some points. I will never see this movie. My girlfriend has tried, and I give it a D.
All right, Katie.
Yeah, fuck this movie.
Oh man, my experience with this movie is like, I don't want to like bring the mood down. It was a tough watch for me. I watched it with my cousin. We both wanted to see a horror movie. We were excited about it because we both really liked Hereditary. I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and a couple years before, his brother had killed himself. And so we walked into that movie and we were completely unprepared for the experience. It was, we're 10 minutes in and we looked at each other and we were like, this was the wrong decision. That being said, I identified with this movie very strongly. Like, I felt all of the things that he wanted me to feel in this film. It felt very much like it was a movie geared towards me. And it was horrifying. So I also like Hereditary better. I'll give this movie a B. But I had a very specific reaction to this film when it came out, and so
that's
sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so we got two B's.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead now.
Real quick, Zach. Just I want to say this real quick. I remember this movie ruining my day that day. Me and my girlfriend saw it, and our day was significantly ruined. Kyle, you mentioned you did this on your podcast. You just, for the people listening, in case anyone's listening, what's the name of that so they can watch?
Well, that one was my old one. We were doing three reviews a week for modern movies. That's not seemingly going, but that was called The Plot Hole. I am currently doing my own thing, which is a study of older cinema, kind of what this tier list is doing. And Midsummer might be something I revisit because of thoughts I have, but right now I'm doing I know movies and you don't, and that's with me and the host Kyle Brule is in the title as well. But that's on Spotify, that's on Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts now, Google Podcasts, and iTunes, Apple Podcasts. It's on pretty much everything. I'm not on YouTube, which might be a mistake, but then again, I don't think anyone wants to see my face. So
I disagree.
It's a good looking mug, kid.
You can get it on my mug is on the title card of the podcast that you can find on Spotify. It's an animated version, but that's pretty much me.
All right, I'm going to put this one in the C just to balance it out. My issue with this movie is all it did was use already established tropes in cults. It added nothing new. Without Florence Pugh's outstanding performance, she should have been nominated for an Oscar for this. It was so good.
She's on a tear right now.
Yeah. Without her performance, I would have walked out of this movie. They did not establish the relationship enough. They didn't establish the friends enough for me, and I just didn't care. I counted down the people dying, so I knew when I was going to get out of there, which was still way late. All right, next up, Dwight Schrute himself is in House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie's 2003 extravaganza. Eric, have you seen this one?
I fucking hate that I haven't seen this yet. It's been on my list forever. I'm going to listen to each of your reviews very carefully because I need to hurry up and see this movie.
Okay. Connor, have you seen this one?
What a goddamn nightmare of a movie this one is. I watched half of it many years ago. Not when I was super young. I was probably 17 or 18. I mean, I'm only 23 now, so that's not many years ago. But I watched, I think, half of it, and then I fell asleep, which is very hard to do with this movie. But I was just way too tired, and I couldn't stay awake. So I actually watched it again last night to get prepared for today.
Nice.
And it was, I almost regretted eating the pulled pork I ate that night for dinner watching this movie. But I like Rob Zombie enough to give it. I don't like his Halloween movies. I'll say the first
fair.
one's all right. I like his music a lot, so that gave me enough to stay interested in. So I'm gonna have to give this one an A. It was kind of art housey enough to keep me interested with all the. I don't want to spoil it for Eric with all the things going on that went on. So I'm gonna stay with
I've had
an
my
A
time.
for
You can
this
spoil
one.
whatever.
No, this one I don't even know if you can spoil this one, to be honest.
I'll spoil something for you, Eric. Being an adult sucks. Don't grow up.
Yes,
Kyle, what are your
that
thoughts on
is
House of a
true.
Thousand Corpses?
So I've only seen the movie once. As Connor said, I grew up and am a fan of Rob Zombie and his music. Actually, in fact, one of the first concerts when I was like 14 or 15 in my life was going to see Rob Zombie live, which is quite a thrilling experience for people who like horror. It's a horror infused experience of rock and roll. Like they have Rob Zombie. Say what you want about him, he is a horror fanatic and a horror expert. Like this guy lives and
He
breathes
gets it.
horror. Yeah, he does. I mean, when you get they did a back in the day a Cribs episode on MTV, and they went into his place and he had an entire room lined with horror movies. Like it wasn't a movie collection like filled with like, oh, here's The Apartment from Billy Wilder. No, it was just pure horror movies, B movies, C movies, classic horror. The guy lives and breathes it. So it's interesting that he would, you know, and probably fortuitous that he would funnel that kind of fanaticism into his own kind of horror film and experience. And it really it's a grimy, gritty, darkly humorous descent into hell, and it is quite I mean, it grabs you and it doesn't let go, and it's thrilling, it's disgusting in kind of the best of ways. It's not the kind of horror that's for everybody. It's not like polished thrill-seeking horror. It is grimy, gritty, and you know, there's something you know, charming. I don't know if charming's the right word, but there's something incredibly enthralling about it. And so like that indie flair to it gives it a bit of more credence to my, you know, my viewing experience. It's more of a B. Like it's not like an S class for me, but it is a solid B horror film. And it does, and his horror series doesn't get better from this point, but this is a kind of one that you should experience.
I agree with that.
Reluctantly.
Like his next movie, I think is my favorite one, Devil's Rejects. But that to me, I like it so much because it's a really good story about bad people. It's not a horror.
Mm-hmm. That's very fair. Yeah.
Knock, have you seen this one?
Yeah, so this is ones I caught up on yesterday. I actually wish I didn't see this. This is another deeply disturbing movie. I did not need to see the ending, the some stuff in the middle. The most innocent thing about this movie is like them just trying to write a book in the beginning, but like the ending, man, I really did not need to see that. Yeah, I'll give it a B, but I will never watch this again. This is not for everybody. You do not need to experience this. This
No,
is
it's
deeply
nightmare
disturbing,
juice.
and I
Yeah.
don't think I will watch his next movie because of this.
Oh, the minds of white people. Katie, have you seen this one?
I have not seen this one, and I guess I'd thought that maybe I would at some point, but now I'm not sure. Now I don't know about these these reviews here. Kyle made it sound intriguing, but everybody else makes me feel like maybe I would not enjoy this experience.
Okay. Yeah, it is hit or miss. I'll keep it right there in B. Funny side note, I went to see Devil's Rejects in the theater. It was a Sunday morning, like 11 a.m. showing in small town Wisconsin. Me and my buddy were the only ones in there. In walks a properly dressed family of 3, 2 parents and a young boy dressed to the nines from church. They come into a movie called The Devil's Rejects. I don't care if you see the poster. I don't care if you've seen the trailers, even the name itself. I don't know why you bought tickets, but they get like 20 minutes deep into there until when they're in the hotel scene. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm kind of talking about. And then they walk out. That just a side
I'm
note.
surprised it took it that long. To be
Us
honest.
too. All right, next up, I fucking love this movie so much. Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, 1963 classic. Katie, what do you think about this movie?
I enjoy this movie. It is not, I don't know, it's not my favorite anything, I suppose.
Okay.
I enjoy it. It's fun. It's not my favorite Hitchcock. It's not my favorite horror movie. It's just, it has some cool elements to it. Some of the editing is pretty interesting, and I love obviously the shot with the birds on the playground. I mean, it's fantastic.
Mhm.
I guess I don't have anything bad to say about the movie, but I'm not terribly passionate about it. But I would give it an A. I mean, it's very well done, obviously.
Mhm. Connor, you like this one?
It is one of the few Hitchcock movies I have not seen. I hate to say that. I don't know why it's not one I have seen.
Okay.
So skip.
Skip. All right. Anyone else not see this? All right.
Yeah, I'm
Knock?
skip also.
Oh,
No,
you're
I was
skip
gonna
too?
say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Well, I mean, I mean, in sort of an agreement and assessment and grading that Katie gave, it's not my favorite Hitchcock. Like, not even close. Like Hitchcock has such a dense career of so many thrilling hits. Like, I could even go back to like Notorious and even like Lifeboat. I think Lifeboat's a more interesting film than The Birds, but because we're talking about The Birds. I think as a template of emergence and an adaptation for Hitchcock in his career to bring something thrilling, what he does know how to do is give a sense of dread. And dread is pervasive throughout The Birds, so much that it is an influential sort of atmosphere that would go on to influence like Steven Spielberg for Jaws. Like that's the kind of dread that you need to make an effective, and evocative use of horror. And something as silly, or the concept seems silly, birds just start turning on you and start attacking you, but it's how it's done. It's a very well accomplished and very well directed film. I mean, how could it not be for one of the masters of cinema? So it's not one I'm passionate about either, but it is one that I respect, and I do find it thrilling when I watch it. So and I think Tippi Hedren is quite fine in it. Quite one of his fine blonde vixens that he has found throughout his career. I do think it is a good movie. I would put it A as well.
Okay. Eric, have you seen it?
Yeah. In my still continuing search of what the fuck to do with my life, when I did take film classes, I watched it for school, and I enjoyed it. Like Kyle said, dread was there constantly. Shots of the birds assembling on the playground, the scene where they're chasing all the kids. I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again, so I'll give it that.
All right. That will go in A. There are a laundry list of Hitchcock films that I would put above The Birds. I just kind of grew up with it. I do think that it is a little too long for what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just put it on here because the only other one from Hitchcock I was going to put on here was Psycho, but that's on everyone else's list, so I just put this one on there.
Man.
Oh, just if we're on the topic of Psycho, everybody should see this movie from 1960. It came out 6 months prior to Psycho. It's called Peeping Tom, and it is just as revolutionary as Michael Powell film, and it got banned, and that's why nobody heard about it. But it's about a cinematographer who works in the British Hollywood industry, and he films his kills. It's demented, it is thrilling, and it is on the same level as Psycho. It is that good.
Wow. Definitely check that one out. And if you want to really waste some time, go to YouTube and watch The Birds Part 2.
Oh gosh.
All right.
That bad?
It's that bad. A Quiet Place is up next.
S.
You going S, Knock?
S.
All right.
Do you mean to say D, or are you?
No. Listen, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm not the right person to ask for this. I'm a little biased. So the opening scene when they're in like the little convenience store and they grab the plane.
Mhm.
The location of that was my first job when I was a kid. That's in New York.
Oh,
that's
So
awesome.
I have a little bias going there. That's like a health food store in my hometown
Mhm.
back home. So a little biasness going there, but I'm still going S.
All right.
My heart was racing watching this.
Kyle, what about you?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go S, but I'm not going to disparage this movie a lot. I think it is a well-crafted film. I think John Krasinski did quite a good job. There's some details in it that I wouldn't have done, if I were making the film. But who am I? I'm a nobody. I'm not making movies, so he is. So and he's making movies with his great wife who acts. She's acting a storm in this film. Like the sequence where she has to try and keep quiet while giving birth is
Yeah.
just so tension driven. And it's the use of sound in this film. Like when you saw it in a theater, and hopefully you saw it in a theater where everyone shut the fuck up, because I unfortunately didn't for the first time, and it was an aggravating experience. But I think it showed a very good use of sonic ambiance that really delves you into the world, and how being quiet and is a sense of survival. And it really does bring you in. It builds a world. It brings you into this family's dynamic. It makes them sympathetic. It makes them worth kind of venturing. The sacrifice, I think, is earned at the end. So it's a solid film. It's like a B. It's a B.
Okay. Eric, what about you?
So I didn't watch the full thing. I snuck in and out of it, but I'm gonna give it a C because my biggest positive and my biggest con are the same thing. The asshole in me is always like, nope, you're gonna make a sound there. Sorry, that's not how that works. No, there should be sound there. But I respect that. That's a good creative choice. I give him props for it. It played out well. But again, nah, you're making sound. That's bullshit. So I'll give it a C.
Whatever, man.
Connor, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a C. I like Emily Blunt's performance by far. She was the best part of the whole movie.
Mhm.
I like John Krasinski in The Office as Jim. I've seen a little bit of Jack Ryan and a couple of other movies he's done, and it just doesn't do it for me. I think his direction was great in this movie. If I knew I was getting into more of a family action adventure, I think I would like it more, but I was really going in for like an actual classic horror movie. So I think that's what made this a C for me.
Oh, that's fair. What about you, Katie?
So I really enjoyed this movie. I saw it twice in theaters. The first time was with a crowded theater, and that was a bummer because everyone's trying to be quiet, but it's nigh on impossible. Some
Mhm.
poor soul like opens a bag of candy, and the whole theater turns on them essentially. But it was fun. I'm glad I watched it in a theater because I feel like horror movies are, when you can't pause them or escape them, there's always a little bit more tension. It's more fun.
Yes.
I enjoyed this movie. I like movies with rules. And I liked their rule set. I wish they had stuck to them a little bit better. They definitely kind of stretched their rules at different points. And I remember my mom finished watching it and made the comment that it would be impossible for them to have perfectly planted rows of corn. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right, because you need a tractor for that, and you can't run the tractor if you're going to get eaten by something. But, things like that. Things like that, where you're like, oh, yeah, it's not really realistic, but it's still fun. And I really enjoy the family dynamic, and I feel like it is one of the few horror movies that successfully integrates children into the story, and they don't feel like they're a burden. They feel like they're moving the story forward, and I like that. I was impressed with their ability to accomplish that. I give it an A.
Okay. Well, we'll pop that into the B. Yeah, they did do a good job with the children in there. It's like the only thing I hate about Jurassic Park. Those fucking kids.
Well, I mean, to be fair about Jurassic Park, like even Alan Grant's like, fuck these kids. So it's true.
All right. The longest PSA for STDs, It Follows.
That's true.
Connor, your thoughts on It Follows?
I enjoyed it for what it was, I'll say. I think I was expecting a little bit more getting into it. I the cinematography in it, I think, is gonna give it the A that I'm giving it. But the acting was really good, and then I think I kind of knew about the STD driven storyline before I was watching it,
Hmm.
so that kind of changed my mindset. But I did enjoy it a lot, so I'm gonna keep the A ranking.
Katie, what about you?
This is S for me for sure. I love this movie. It was everything that I wanted it to be. The dread that runs throughout is just, I mean, it's palpable. They did such a good job with that. I loved the way that it was shot, where you could kind of always see over the character's shoulders just to see whether or not something was there or not. And then there's specifically the shot where her friend opens the door to the bedroom and the tall man like lumbers in. Essentially, it was just so well done. The ending was not as strong, I feel, which is, I feel, common in most horror movies. It's pretty hard to end something cleanly. But yeah, I love this movie. It was everything I wanted it to be.
Nice. Eric, you see this one?
Yeah, I'll give it an A. I enjoyed it. The whole STD angle of it, I thought would be more laughable than I found it, but I enjoyed it. It was solid.
Yeah. Kyle, what about you?
Well, I mean, this is quite an impressive film. I mean, this kind of horror is not necessarily done a lot. This is on a wavelength with John Carpenter and how he did Halloween, or how Black Christmas is done. It has the air and the ominous insidiousness of a slasher, but it's done with this kind of impending doom that just doesn't stop. And so while the STD aspect is a bit kind of laughable, but you know, it's kind of David Robert Mitchell, who did it, who also did Under the Silver Lake, which is a convoluted kind of parody of the noir, like LA noir, and it's a bit of a mess. There's some aspects of it that are interesting. I think you can lead into his attribute here as kind of a parody or kind of a head nod to other aspects of horror cinema that is very much sexualized. And so he's just kind of using that aspect. It's kind of a meta commentary on the horror genre in itself. And so I think he would be the first to say it's kind of funny. Like, it's kind of funny, but the palpable, as some Katie said, the palpable doom and dread that is just throughout this film is so intense and felt and realized and genuine that it is definitely an A for me. It is quite an accomplishment of horror, especially modern horror, as comparative to the studio examples.
Naki, check this one out.
I haven't seen it. On paper, going off it, I don't think I would have seen it, but after what you guys are saying, I think I'll give it a chance. I just want to ask a question. Like, with the impending doom, is that kind of similar, like with The Ring, like how that impending doom, is that a similar feeling?
It's similar.
I feel like
I
it
know
looms
different
even
concepts.
closer. I feel like it's even more
Yeah.
heavy in this one. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
because conceptually now, the Ring is like a countdown. In it follows, it's a demon that taking the persona of a normal person, and it's just walking towards you. But that's how fast it goes, but it never stops. Like, you could travel across the country, you could travel across the ocean, and you might be safe for a couple years, but it will still end up at your door. Like, it just never stops. It just keeps walking.
Jeez, that's an awful thought.
Just
It
like
is.
STD.
It is.
Yeah.
It's fucking freaky.
That's why abstinence is cool, kids.
That's right. All right, next up, The Leprechaun. Jennifer Aniston's breakout role. Kyle, do you like this movie?
In the sense that we talked about how in Final Destination it makes us laugh. Like, Leprechaun was that continuous film that I would see on TV in edited form, and I would watch it and I would find it hysterical. Like, it is just so funny. It's not that scary. I mean, it's a product of, God, is this like early 90s? I don't even remember.
This is 93.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it has that exact feel. It feels so dated. It feels so like sparse for innovation, and it's how it's done is just silly. And if you like silly horror, it's enjoyable, but it's still on a quality level of very much a D.
Knock, you're a Leprechaun guy, aren't you? Oh, I didn't mean like that. Come on, man.
Don't slander me like that, man. This is another one of those movies that, like, I seen on TV when I was like a kid, and the guy is creepy, but that's about it. Like, if you're a kid, this is kind of creepy to look at the Leprechaun, but then when you grow up and you see it, or even if you see it when you're a kid, it's just not good for me. I don't know. I'll give it a D, borderline F, but it's gonna be a D for me.
Okay, and I just made that comment because you wanted this on this list.
I know, because I just wanted to talk about it, but don't like it.
Okay. Leprechaun.
I mean, if James Wan directed, it's a different story.
He'd be stealing DVD players.
Connor, what do you think about this movie?
Well, I watched it for the first time yesterday. I was going to give it a C, but since the other couple of votes have been a D, I think I'm going to lower it to a D. I got about 53 minutes in, and I checked the time. I was like, wow, it's actually been moving, honestly, pretty fast for 53 minutes. And then the next 40 minutes were the longest 40 minutes of my life. I liked Warwick Davis a lot.
Yeah.
Everything he's in, he's phenomenal in. Jen Aniston, she's been doing the same thing since The Leprechaun in 1973. So she's really not giving much substance to the movie. The gore and violence were fun, but I probably won't watch this again. I might get super drunk one night and watch 2 through 6.
Oh man, don't.
There are 5 other ones.
They
So
go to
Don't watch that
space.
Hornswoggle one.
oh
Do
man,
He goes to the hood. Don't do it.
he goes to the hood twice. I noticed.
Yes.
So I have to get to those. But
Kyle,
no, I'm gonna give this a D.
A D. Okay, Kyle. I don't know about when you worked at Blockbuster, but Leprechaun Goes to the Hood came out when I worked at a Blockbuster. You couldn't keep that thing in stock.
That's hilarious. No, mine was a couple years later, but no, that's just I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Eric, have you seen this one?
Yeah, so it's going in D. I think everyone agrees. I'm gonna put mine straight into F. Everything about this fucking franchise, like, okay, first of all, I know we're just grading this movie, but Back to the fucking Hood, really? I just want to hurt someone. Like, I don't know. F. Go to the next one.
You're going F. All right, Katie, you're the final vote. Where's this guy going?
I have never seen this movie, and now I kind of want to watch it more.
If you
But
can
I
watch
can't-
an edited version, I suggest that, like a cut down version of it.
This is fair. Yeah, I can't vote. I've never seen it.
All right, your luck just ran out. All right, that's a D.
You mean me Lucky Charms?
All right, let's go to last year's Us. Connor, what do you think about Us?
I liked it a lot, only because I knew I wasn't getting as good as quality as Get Out was from Jordan Peele. So I had a lot of fun with this movie. I was very terrified during the first home invasion when the underground folk came and invaded the house. But every minute after that, I was either laughing my ass off or just having a really, really fun time. I wasn't scared at all. I don't really consider this a horror movie more than a thriller. So I'm gonna give this one an A, simply because of that.
Okay, Knock, what about you?
I might go A also. Again, there's some parts of this that the laughing, like, it was kind of funny. It kind of took me out of it a bit, and I was expecting something better than Get Out, so I was a little let down. But even then, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good concept. I think Jordan Peele is a really smart dude, knows what he's doing. I'm gonna give it an A, but I was a little let down.
Okay, Katie, what about you?
I guess it wasn't what I wanted it to be. I enjoyed it fine. I kind of figured out what was going on in that first bit, the flashback to the beginning when she sees the double of herself, and I was like, oh, I see what's happened here. And from that point on, I mean, it's the very beginning of the movie. And so when you can kind of see it coming, it's just, I don't know, it takes some of the sparkle out of it. However, I will say that Winston Duke is fantastic. He's amazing in this movie. He's amazing in everything I've seen him in, and that brings it up. So I would give it an A.
Fair enough.
Based solely on that.
Hey, that works for me. Mr. Kyle Brule, what about you?
I'm probably the most negative about this movie. I so to put it into context, I was a big fan of Get Out. I really like his Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of twist on that genre and putting it into a kind of cultural rumination. And I was very excited to what he was going to do next. I've been a fan of his comedy, but to come out and be a horror filmmaker, especially a black horror filmmaker, with someone that is giving a voice that is needed for that kind of thought process within horror. I was very excited. I was very excited to see what he would do next. And I think what happened was the studio was also a little too excited for what he was going to do next. And I think they kind of pushed him into a first draft, like a production deal where he had not necessarily really honed in on this idea. This, as somebody who is a fan, Jordan Peele is a fan of the Twilight Zone. This is essentially a Twilight Zone episode, even one that's been done before, the Doppelganger episode.
Mhm.
And he took it and put it into this kind of rushed, very period centric criticism of Hands Around the World, and referencing that in a time period where he'd have something to say about people and about what horror does in a line and how it's interconnected. But it is the rules here, and somebody who enjoys rules aren't very well defined. And unfortunately, and in this case, I think he almost did himself a disservice by trying to explain his rules. I think if you just had doppelgangers appear and you never necessarily said where they came from, apparently it's alluded that they are government created to sort of control people, but then they go a little haywire and the experiment goes bad, so they just lock the doppelgangers underneath and they are pirouetting as they do, with the same person up above, and they are tethered as they will. But it just was lacking. There was just something about it that was distracted. I think the wind underneath the sails gets taken out when the beginning. I guessed the end from the very beginning. I knew exactly where it was going. And so the experience was slightly boring. I was not necessarily thrilled. And that might be me being overly negative, but I am very negative about this movie. Let's be frank. Winston Duke is great. Lupita Nyong'o is great. Elizabeth Moss is great. The acting is exceptional, and some of the set pieces are it's very well filmed. It's some of the music cues are really garbage, but it's a tightly constructed film that I think needed one or two more passes on an idea of a screenplay, and I think people were just a little too excited to get another production going for Jordan Peele.
And you grade?
Well, that's fair. I think it's a C.
A C?
Yeah.
All right. And Eric, what about you?
After all that, I'm gonna bring it back to an A. I will agree. I think the ending was we all saw it coming. She was the actual tethered all along. That I even though I saw it coming, I think because I saw it coming, I said in my head, Eric, when it happens, just live with it. Just you're enjoying the movie so far. Just live with this. It's gonna happen. So maybe I was able to get over that. The one thing I really didn't like was the whole government explanation that I hate the go-to answer that something's magic. I think I would have been fine with that here, that they just magically fucking happen over the government.
Mhm.
But through all that, I enjoyed the ride more than destination. So I'm gonna keep it an A.
Fair enough. And this movie got Luna's a huge ass payday. Love that trailer.
True.
All right, Monster Squad. I love this movie. It has all the Universal monsters in there. 1987. We find out the Wolfman's got nards. Connor, have you seen this one?
I have, and it prompted me to buy a I Love Stephen King t-shirt as soon as I saw it for the first time. So with that, I'm just going to say an A, and I'm going to keep it as an A. It did have some things that wouldn't make it an S for my standards, but it is a lot of fun, and every time I watch it, I just love it even more. So I'll say an A.
Beautiful. Knock, have you seen this one?
I have not actually,
Okay,
but
it's
it seems
kind of,
interesting.
it is. It's kind of like a Goonies meets Monsters.
Okay.
Eric, have you seen this one?
I haven't. It looks like a real graveyard smash, monster bash, but I have not seen it.
Clever.
Kyle, what about you?
I have seen the Monster Squad. Zach, you saying Goonies meets Monsters? That's 100% correct. Just so everyone knows, co-screenwriter on this was Shane Black, who who went on to do Lethal Weapon and Predator, and all that.
Predator.
But Monster Squad is very 80s camp in mixed with adventure for adolescent adventure. It is fun. It's fun, and it's worth watching alone to see vampire call little girl a little bitch. It's just hilarious, but it is it's a fun movie. For me, it's more my enjoyment of it, my nostalgia for it would put it more at a B than anything else.
Fair enough. Katie, have you seen this one?
I have not, and honestly, I feel like I don't know when I would have or when I will. I don't see many opportunities to watch this movie coming up for me, and so I don't know. I have nothing to say about it.
That's okay. We'll pop it right there in the B. This next movie, I had nothing to say about it after I first saw it, but it is apparently younger generations love this movie. Jeepers Creepers.
Oh God!
Who likes this movie a lot?
Are you allowed to like this movie anymore?
I have not seen this movie. So I
No,
can't say
I'm
anything about it.
serious. This was
All right.
directed by Victor Salva. We're not allowed to like this movie. He's a convicted pedophile. We're not allowed to like this movie
Jeez.
anymore.
I have no idea about that.
With that
Now I
being
will
said,
watch this movie.
dude, with that being said, this movie is all over cable every Halloween now. It is like again, younger generations love this movie. It's like for certain people, this is like their hocus pocus now.
So I've realized I've actually never seen this one. I recommended it and I thought I did, but the one I saw was the second one. And as a kid, that whole thing creeped me the fuck out. Then I rewatched it to see if it lived up, and my gosh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Do you know what would also creep you out as a kid?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Just go ahead and put it to F.
Any objections to F?
None at all.
Nope.
Well, it should just go in F because Victor Salva did it. It's not a bad movie though.
I think it's a bad movie.
It's like C, but
They sing the Jeepers Creepers song from like the 50s.
I know they do.
Off.
I think the first 10 minutes are pretty good. But yeah, F because we don't give any other grade to a pedophile.
Nope. All right, next up. That's too much. Can't do this one. It's
That
too
is
horrifying. We gotta move on.
That is
We gotta move
absolutely
on.
scary.
That was too much. Let's go with The Witch. Kyle, tell us if you like The Witch or not.
We're at like only one S class right now. Is that correct? Well,
Mhm.
this would.
I mean, I've had a couple, but I got.
Well, I mean, unanimous S class. Let me tell you, Robert Eggers, I think, is slowly becoming, and I know he's only done 2 films, but I think he is slowly becoming the Stanley Kubrick of modern day, because nobody can do atmosphere research and bringing you into a time period like he can. The fact that he actually got the dialect down from journals and did the research and is able to construct a past that is genuinely felt and atmospherically believed. Robert Eggers is acting on a cinematic level that is beyond what most people can fathom or dream to do. And The Witch is a phenomenal piece of horror. I think of folk horror and of a supernatural demonic horror, and I think it asks questions and lives an experience of what it was like to actually what are the fears of the time, and of an antiquated time, of like really believing in devils, and this family, this people, this is how they really felt, this sense of paranoia, this sense of that witches could grab your children, or that the devil would ask you if you wanted to live deliciously. You know, this is purely felt and realized from a very particular time period. It is a transportation. It's almost it's I mean, it's not even close to being like a documentary, but it's almost like you living in it and what the fears and sensibilities of the time are. And so because of that, this is a phenomenal piece of film, and it is an S class for me.
Ooh. Eric, have you seen this one?
I have not. I'm gonna have to skip this one, unfortunately.
All right. Connor?
I will say everything Kyle just said. It is an S for me. I can't really add much to what he also just said, but I will say I'm very excited for the Northman coming
Yes,
out. That
yeah, and
Robert Eggers is doing.
him doing Vikings is going to be insane.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah,
I can't
exactly.
wait. But yes, I'm going to give this one an S as well.
Okay. Katie, what about you?
This movie, I love this movie. It's an S for me as well. And so as to not spoil the ending, I only have one complaint about the movie, and it is the very, very tail end, that final scene. But I don't want to spoil it. It's this movie is incredible. This is quite an accomplishment. It is the tone and just the build up, and as I speak vaguely, because now I don't want to spoil it. It's so good. I love this movie so much. It's an S. I love it.
I will recommend watching it with subtitles, though. It was very hard to understand
for the first
few minutes. Yeah. But other than that, it is great.
Yeah. Knock, you check this one out?
Yeah, this movie's brilliant. Yeah, not too much to add. Not even a really big budget. And this is really good, capitalizing on something that people's fears in this time. I'll give it an S also. Yeah, like what Connor said, put subtitles on.
Yeah. Yeah, the dialect stuff in there is unbelievable. How many other directors or movie makers would just skip that and just make this so basic?
All of them.
Yes. Yeah. Let's just give them British accents, and then it'll be okay. That's what
exactly. Who is in Game of Thrones already? Yeah, let's put them in there. And
No.
All right.
Game of Thrones and Harry Potter. Oh my God. Here we go.
Here we go. Connor, kick us off. You just watched all of these.
I did just watch all of these. The first one, I will give a B. I think it is the perfect B movie rating. The main thing that was keeping me attached to how stupid this movie was the is it Scott Grimes plays the main kid.
Mm-hmm.
He voices Steve Smith in American Dad, which I am a big fan of. So just seeing him play I think he was 13 years old in this movie. So seeing him actually play a kid was fantastic to me. I gave it a B because I think it came out. I obviously wasn't around when this came out, but the Gremlins, I think, had better animatronics than this one did. I think this one just came out a little too after that one to get all the praise that it should have. So that's why I'm going to keep it as a B.
And then really quick, how downhill does the rest of the series go for you?
I will say 2 wasn't bad. 2 has a line in it that sold me better, that made it better than Critters. The grandmother is in the kitchen, and a Critters is getting into the fridge, and it's like eating all the food, and then it turns around and notices the grandmother. But just as it notices, Scott Grimes and the female love interest run into the front door, and Scott Grimes goes, "Grandma, the Critters are here." And she goes, "No shit, Randy," as she's fighting the one in the kitchen. But everything after that is just a load of shit.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say.
And again, they go to space.
Yes, they do. And, oh, man.
Yeah. Katie, have you seen this one?
I have not seen this one. My only exposure to the Critters movies is in the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Raphael, when he comes out of the theater, he watched a Critters movie, and he makes fun of it. That's all I know. That's all I've got. Who comes up with this crap? That's it. That's all I know.
Oh, that's 1986 gem. Connor, what's his name? The main guy is also in the Orville now, I think.
Oh, man. I forget his name, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Knock, have you seen this one?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I don't quite remember. I just know, like, there's something about this time, like the animatronics like this, for example, were just really creepy to me. But I'll give the movie, like, what the concept, I'll give it a B. I don't remember it too well, but this did creep me out.
All right, Eric, you?
I'm gonna vote B because Connor's passion for this just moved me. But if Connor wasn't here, I'd probably give it a B. Animatronics, like I said, better. The Gremlins, and whenever I see them, I think of the Tribbles more. I think about like horror.
Nice. Kyle, what about you?
I mean, Critters does not have a special place in any nostalgic or even production appreciation heart that I have. Yeah, the comparison to Gremlins and Joe Dante's work is actually quite, I think, on the nose. On the nose, because I think Dante knew how to utilize something a bit silly and bring a sense of like character and heart to it into the proceedings. And Critters is kind of just lost in the sense that it is just silly sci-fi horror blend and doesn't really go beyond that. It is mostly about, they had the opportunity or the idea for a creature effect, and they do it, slightly well and are committed to it, but it doesn't go beyond that. There's nothing other than the excuse to do some kind of monster animatronics and monster use. So there's something lacking within the watch, and so the sentiment expressed in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like, who comes up with this crap? Like, that's kind of the through line that I have. It's like, who comes up with this, and I forget about it. Critters is something that I laugh about when it's mentioned, and I don't necessarily think of it other than that. Like, so it's like a D for me.
Okay. 3 B's and a D. We'll pop it right there in the B's. The Sci-Fi Channel or network, whatever it's called now, brought it back or something like last year, and you could see the people's hands pushing the critters to roll them. And I think in one scene too, you could see the arm in the back using it like a Muppet. So don't watch that one. That one was trash.